Today, in this podcast, I will tell you the perspective of Nathuram Godse, why he killed Gandhi. Right from beginning, we were and are and will be told that Gandhiji was the greatest freedom fighter, and also his way of protest was absolutist. I wonder if he was really the greatest, then why he was to be killed by one who called himself Bharat Maa Ka Lal. Let's see how things were from his side. First of all, I want to clear a misconception. The term Hindu or Hindustan refers to the people of Bharat. This term was used by Arabic people to refer to this piece of land. With time, Sindhu changed into Hindu and the name came. I will use direct speech. There is no addition or deletion from my side. So now I start. As I grew up, I developed a tendency to free thinking unfettered by any superstitious allegiance to any ills, political or religion. That is why I worked actively for the eradication of untouchability and the caste system based on birth alone. I openly joined RSS wing of anti-caste movements. I used publicly to take part in organized anti-caste dinners in which thousands of Hindus participated. We broke the caste rules and dined in the company of each other. I have read the speeches and writings of Ravan, Chanakya, Dadabhai Nauroji, Vivekanand, Gokhale, Tilak, along with the books of ancient and modern history of India and some prominent countries like England, France, America, and Russia. Moreover, I studied the tenets of socialism and Marxism. But above all, I studied very closely whatever Veer Savarkar and Gandhiji had written and spoken. As to my mind, these two ideologies have contributed more to the molding of the thought and action of the Indian people during the last 30 years or so than any other single factor has done. Since the year 1920, that is, after the demise of Lokmanya Tilak, Gandhiji's influence in the Congress first increased and then became supreme. His activities for public awakening were phenomenal in their intensity and were reinforced by the slogan of truth and non-violence, which he paraded ostentatiously before the country. No sensible or enlightened person could object to those slogans. In fact, there is nothing new or original in them. They are implicit in every constitutional public movement, but it is nothing but a mere dream if you imagine that the bulk of mankind is or can ever become capable of scrupulous adherence to these lofty principles in its normal life from day to day. In fact, honor, duty, and love of one's kith and kin and country might often compel us to disregard non-violence and to use force. In fact, honor, duty, and love of one's kith and kin and country might often compel us to disregard non-violence and to use force. I could never convince that an armed resistance to an aggression is unjust. I would consider it a religious and moral duty to resist and if possible to overpower such an enemy by use of force. For example, in the Ramayana, in the Mahabharata, Ram killed Ravan in a tumultuous fight and relieved Sita. Krishna killed Kans to end his wickedness and Arjun had to fight and slay quite a number of his friends and relations including the revered Bhishma because the latter was on the side of the aggressor. It is my firm belief that in dubbing Ram, Krishna and Arjun as guilty of violence, the Mahatma betrayed a total ignorance of the springs of human action. In more recent history, it was a heroic fight put up by Chhatrapati Shivaji that first checked and eventually destroyed by Muslim tyranny in India. It was absolutely essentially for Shivaji to overpower and kill an aggressive Afzal Khan, failing which he would have lost his own life. In condemning history's towering warriors like Shivaji, Rana Pratap, and Guru Gobind Singh as misguided patriots, Gandhiji has merely exposed his self-conceit. He was, paradoxical as it may appear, a violent pacifist who brought untold calamities on the country in the name of truth and non-violence, while Rana Pratap, Shivaji, and the Guru will remain enshrined in the hearts of their countrymen forever for the freedom they brought to them. The accumulating provocation of 32 years, culminating in his last pro-Muslim fast, at least guided me to the conclusion that the existence of Gandhi should be brought to an end immediately. Gandhi had done very good in South Africa to uphold the rights and well-being of the Indian community there, but when he finally returned to India, he developed a subjective mentality under which he alone was to be the final judge of what was right or wrong. If the country wanted his leadership, it had to accept his infallibility. If he did not, he would stand aloof from the Congress and carry on his own way. Against such an attitude, there can be no halfway house. Either Congress had to surrender its will to his and had to be content while playing second fiddle to all his eccentricity, whimsicality, metaphysics, and primitive vision, or it had to carry on without him. He alone was the judge of everyone and everything. He alone was the judge of everyone and everything. He was the master brain guiding the civil disobedience movement. No other could know the technique of that movement. He alone knew when to begin and when to withdraw it. The movement might succeed or fail. It may bring untold disaster and political reverses, but that could make no difference to the Mahatma's infallibility. A satyagrahi can never fail was his formula for declaring his own infallibility, and nobody except himself knew what a satyagrahi is. Thus the Mahatma became the judge and jury in his own cause. The children, insanities, and obstinacies, coupled with the most severe austerity of life, ceaseless work, and lofty character made Gandhi formidable and irresistible. Many people thought that his politics were irrational, but they had either to withdraw from the Congress or place their intelligence at his feet to do what as he liked. In a position of such absolute irresponsibility, Gandhi was guilty of blunder after blunder, failure after failure, disaster after disaster. Gandhi's pro-Muslim policy is blatantly in his perverse attitude on the question of the national language of India. In the beginning of his career in India, Gandhi gave a great impetus to Hindi, but as he found that the Muslims did not like it, he became a champion of what is called Hindustani. Everybody in India knows that there is no language called Hindustani. It is no grammar, it is no vocabulary, it is a mere dialect. It is spoken but not written. It is a bastard tongue and crossbreed between Hindu and Urdu, and not even the Mahatma sophistry could make it popular. But in his desire to please the Muslims, he insisted that Hindustani alone should be the national language of India. His blind followers, of course, supported him, and the so-called hybrid language began to be used. The charm and purity of the Hindi language was to be prostituted to please the Muslims. All his experiments were at the expense of the Hindus. Words like Badshah Ram and Begum Sita were used. From August 1946 onwards, the private armies of the Muslim League began a massacre of the Hindus. The then Viceroy Lord Wavell, though distressed at what was happening, would not use his powers under the Government of India Act of 1935 to prevent the rape, murder, and arson. The Hindu blood began to flow from Bengal to Karachi with some rebellion by the Hindus. The interim government formed in September was sabotaged by its Muslim League members right from its inception. But the more they became disloyal and treasonable to the government of which they were a part, the greater was Gandhi's infatuation for them. Lord Wavell had to resign as he could not bring about a settlement, and he was succeeded by Lord Mountbatten. King Log was followed by King Stock. The Congress, which had boasted of its nationalism and socialism, secretly accepted Pakistan literally at the point of the bayonet and abjectly surrendered to Jinnah. India was vivisected, and one-third of the Indian territory became foreign land to us from August 15, 1947. Mountbatten came to be described in Congress circles as the greatest viceroy and governor-general this country ever had. The official date for handing over power was fixed for June 30, 1948. But Mountbatten, with his ruthless surgery, gave us a gift of vivisected India 10 months in advance. This is what Gandhi had achieved after 30 years of undisputed dictatorship, and this is what Congress Party calls freedom and peaceful transfer of power. The Hindu-Muslim unity bubble was finally burst, and a theocratic state was established with the consent of Nehru and his crowd, and they were called freedom won by them with sacrifice. I am asking whose sacrifice? When top leaders of Congress, with the consent of Gandhi, divided and tore the country, which we consider a deity of worship, my mind was filled with direful anger. One of the conditions imposed by Gandhi for his breaking of the fast unto death related to the mosques in Delhi, occupied by the Hindu refugees. But when Hindus in Pakistan were subjected to violent attacks, he did not so much as utter a single word to protest and censor the Pakistan government or the Muslims concerned. Gandhi was shrewd enough to know that while undertaking a fast hunt to death, had he imposed for its breaksome conditions on the Muslims in Pakistan, there would have been found hardly any Muslim who could have shown some grief if the fast had ended in his death. It was for this reason that he purposely avoided imposing any conditions on the Muslims. He was fully aware from the experience that Jinnah was not at all perturbed or influenced by his fast, and the Muslim League hardly attached any value to the inner voice of Gandhi. Gandhi is being referred to as the father of the nation, but if that is so, so he had failed his pastoral duty inasmuch as he has acted very treacherously to the nation by his consenting to the partitioning of it. I stoutly maintain that Gandhi has failed in his duty. He has proved to be the father of Pakistan. His inner voice, his spiritual power, and all his doctrine of non-violence of which so much is made of, all crumbled before Jinnah's iron will and proved to be powerless. Briefly speaking, I thought to myself, and for so I shall be totally ruined, and the only thing I could expect from the people would be nothing but hatred, and that I shall have lost all my honor, even more valuable than my life, if I were to kill Gandhiji. But at the same time, I felt that the Indian politics in the absence of Gandhiji would surely be proved practical, and it was proved practical, able to retaliate, and would be powerful with armed forces. No doubt my own future would be totally ruined, but the nation would be saved from the inroads of Pakistan. People may even call me a dub, me as devoid of any sense or foolish, but the nation would be free to follow the course founded on the reason which I consider to be necessary for sound nation building. I have to say with great regret that Prime Minister Nehru quite forgets that his preachings and deeds are at times at variances with each other when he talks about India as a secular state in season and out of season. Because it is significant to note that Nehru has played a leading role in the establishment of the theocratic state of Pakistan, and his job was made easier by Gandhi's persistent policy of appeasement towards the Muslims. I now stand before the court to accept the full share of my responsibility for what I have done, and the judge would of course pass against me such orders of sentence as may be considered proper. But I would like to add that I do not desire any mercy to be shown to me, nor do I wish that anyone else should beg for mercy on my behalf. My confidence about the moral side of my action has not been shaken even by the criticism leveled against it on all sides. I have no doubt that honest writers of history will weigh my act and find the true value thereof some day in future. Thank you.